DCM works. We cry at the drop of a hat. But no, really though, we do. It's a problem. Makes recording really hard. It was probably a song that reminded me of it, or I'd done an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice.
Writing is definitely an isolating thing.
From an outside perspective, that's weird as
It makes
fuck.
us look really mental.
But that is
Because of what it kind of said about art.
I had fun in bits. There were fun bits.
we went and bought a value pack of straps.
Oh my god, we did. There's a big lesson here to learn about storytelling. Hey guys, welcome back to the Off-Roaders Podcast, official podcast of Digital and Creative Media Works. My name is David, DCM, creative director, lead writer, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben.
Hello.
You picked a good time to drink, though.
Yeah.
It was good. And what are we talking about this week, Ben?
Don't hug me, I'm scared.
Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. And I assume the storytelling, because you're going to tell me what it's about.
Or just the meaning.
The meaning. Alright, we'll do the meaning of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared.
What's your favorite idea? Mine is being creative.
How do you get that idea?
I just tried to think creatively. Now when you look at this orange, tell me please, what do you see?
It's just a boring old orange.
Maybe to you, but not to me.
So what... Okay, so basically...
So what the fuck is this?
So you made me watch this.
Because you haven't seen it.
And
It's been running for about 4 years.
I was afraid. I'll say that it's a hot fever dream. I don't know what's happening. I didn't know what to expect. I went in blind, and it was just terrifying.
So, it's a YouTube series. There's 6 episodes, and the 6th and final episode came out, 4 days ago? Yeah, about that. Pretty recently.
Yeah, well, this will go out. This will come up. This episode will go out on Friday.
So it came out on the 19th of June, yeah, which is important. So
What? Oh god. Okay.
go into later. So it's this weird. So the first episode is all of the episodes. They're basically these short 3-minute sort of songs almost, with like puppets, and it's kind of presented as if it's like a kids show, like Sesame Street or something.
Yep.
All of the puppeteering's very Sesame Street, and the gist of most of the episodes is that like they're learning about something,
Like you would in a kids show.
yeah, like learning about time or learning about love
And then
or learning about
Terror happens.
computers, and then it just like slowly devolves into just like
Literal madness.
like very sort of esoteric horror.
Yeah. Just weird
weird
things coming out of weird
things, yeah.
places and just odd stuff happening. Very disturbing, grotesque, but not in like a... Like, it's just all gross and weird.
It's the kind of thing where it's like you'll be watching it and they will like, everything's like very like animated and like cartoony.
Yeah.
And they're all puppets, and then just like they'll just be like guts or like an actual heart.
Yeah, like a real heart.
Like a real human heart or like a real whatever heart. And you're just like, oh, okay.
Or like puppet guts, but they're a little too realistic.
Yeah, like puppet guts that are actual guts.
Yeah.
And it'll just switch on a dime.
Yeah, with seemingly no warning whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's always really, like... So, my qualifier is that when I watched this, I was drunk, which is not unusual. But, like, what was weird about it is that I was following up until about the third one, and then I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it gets... Like, the first 3 are probably the most similar. And then 4, 5, and 6 are where it really gets sort of like weird and crazy.
Because that was sort of when they started to tie together a bit as well.
Yeah, well, it's
There were,
actually
like,
really
threads
it's
across
actually
them.
really interesting how early they tie it together. Once you watch it all and you go back and sort of reevaluate it, it's really interesting that they pretty much tie it together from episode 2. From episode 2 onwards are pretty much the same sort of storyline. So the guys who made it, they're the small indie group. It's actually just 2 people. I forget their names off the top of my head.
Who's to say? And we have no way of looking it up.
No, we don't have
that's
the
good.
internet.
Nope.
And they made the first episode back in like 2012, I want to say.
Yep. Wow, that's a long time
A while ago,
Yeah.
It's been 2013 maybe, but I kind of forget. It's been a couple years though. And the first episode just kind of exploded. It, for obvious reasons, it just sort of came out of nowhere. it had a weird title, like "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared." You're like, what the fuck is this shit? It just went viral, essentially. You know, like standard internet
I can
viral.
See why?
Yeah,
because
you'd send it to your friends, be like, "Look at this. This is really funny, haha," and they think it's like,
show,
"Oh, it's gross,"
bang,
and it just gets weird.
0 to 100 real fucking quick.
So it got a bit of a following after the first episode, and if my memory serves me correct on like the timeline of when things happened, they released the second episode a few months later, and at the same time launched a Kickstarter to fund the rest of the episode.
The series, yeah.
They were like, you know, we've finished episode 2, and we have 4 more episodes that we've got that we want to do, but we need the money for it, obviously.
Because it's very high concept.
Oh, and like the effort they put into all of the puppets and all of the
puppetry
effects
alone is so
and the voice acting and the music and everything. It's like it's a really high quality show.
And like the some of the esoteric scenes aren't puppets; they're like animated or they're
and they must buy a lot of like meat.
Yes,
just
there's a lot of actual real meat in that is God, it's so weird. And sets as well. The sets would be so complex.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I can't...
Yeah, so they were like, we need money, so they had a Kickstarter, and they obviously got funded, you know, because it's amazing, and then they made the 6 more episodes, and 4 more episodes, so they've made 6, and when, like, the second and third episode came out, people started noticing, like, similarities, and they were like, maybe there's something more, because you watch and you're like, there has to be more, it can't just be...
Some of the same characters.
Yeah, like, you're like, there's a running theme between this, so obviously people started theorizing, like, what does it mean?
Because it's the internet.
Yeah, and the creators basically went on record in an interview, and they were like, what is there... Like, have you seen some of the theories, and, like, are any of them, like, really close? And they were basically like... Pretty much all of them are just correct because you can just take out of it whatever you want.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, just like it is what you make of it.
Yo, that's that's wrong though. That's not how art works.
I don't really. I think it's a bit of a cop out. It was probably more so that they just didn't piss off the theorizing community, which I think is a little bit cancerous, but that's another topic.
Just a passing swipe.
Having said
passing swipe at Matt Pat.
No, having said that, there is
We see you, Matt Pat. We see you.
There's like one sort of theory that I like watching the show. I was like, it's probably a metaphor for this.
So there's one that you subscribe to, effectively.
Yeah, essentially. And then there's like a couple people who have been like, I think it's about this, and I'm like, yeah, I think you're right.
It's about whatever you want to.
Yeah, I mean, there's the standard like, oh, it's about depression, or oh, it's all of dream, and you're like, it can be, but that is such a boring way to look at it, and there's plenty of those out there. So
there's also plenty of art that already deals with that.
Yeah,
you know,
so
not well, like it's not always well treated, but that, you know, it's been done.
Yeah, it's been done. So it's the kind of thing where it's just like there's definitely something else, and the kind of meaning that I subscribe to, and I feel is probably the most sort of accurate, just given what it is, given the circumstance, is that it's basically just one big sort of retelling of what it's like to be a creator on YouTube in this sort of indie space, creating content that you're putting your own personality into, but because of things like finances and because of things like the fact that companies may come up and be like, we'll give you money if you make more,
it gets like corrupted.
You lose. Yeah. So there's
wow.
So the main sort of idea behind this theory is that there's
my brain is like slugging things.
there's this long running character in every single episode except episode 1, and that's important. And his name's Roy, and he is the weird, creepy dad puppet. So Yellow Guy's dad, who appears in episode 2, is this character called Roy, and you can tell because he has an R on his shirt, and he's also in the credits, which is another funny thing. And the general idea is that he sort of represents the media, quote unquote. So he's the one that appears at the end of episode 6 with the really long outstretched arm. He's Roy.
Yeah.
And there's this idea that he sort of represents like the established media, like TV stations and things like that.
Yeah.
And the show itself, from episode 2 onwards, is the idea that, imagine if, you know, the people who made Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, they made the first episode,
yeah,
and then they got contacted by like CBS or some shit. I don't fucking know.
Who knows? Someone.
And they
some
were like, we
corporation.
will pay you to make more of these shows.
Yeah.
And there's this, and like, I guarantee that happened to them. I mean, like,
Oh, for
Don't
sure.
Hug Me, I'm Scared one was so big. They must, like,
Oh,
there's...
even, I mean, you know, the truth is the phone's going to ring anyway.
Yeah.
You know, something that big, even if they're not really genuine offers, the phone's going to ring.
Yeah.
Because you're
so,
that big, yeah.
I mean, it's happened with so many other shows. So many other, like, YouTube, like, shorts that got turned into series, which ended up being shit.
Well, you don't even have to be big to get, for your phone to ring
Yeah.
for stuff like that. Like, you know, my phone rings for stuff, and they're not always genuine offers, but you get, people are going to call you because that's, you know, you're in the space.
Yeah, so there's almost this sort of timeline shift where episodes 2 through halfway through 6, they sort of represent the Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared show being produced through this large media corporation. It's like this idea of just like, this is what happens to a show when
It's put into the
machine.
Yeah.
And the sort of the representation of the creator is the red guy. So the weird red guy,
The guy with the
tentacle
noodle
face.
mop head.
Yeah. So a lot of this comes through the ending of episode 6.
Yeah.
Like most of the episodes, they have themes within them and they're loosely tied together, but most of them represent something like on their own. Like you can do an analysis.
A discrete idea.
Yeah, you can do an analysis of each individual episode like on its own. Like the first episode it's a little bit separate. It's kinda, wow.
That was a very...
Jesus Christ, David.
Sorry. Oh, it's... we have Pepsi.
Yeah.
That's a very...
The second episode is...
Sorry.
Which one's the second episode? The time one.
Yeah, the time one.
That's kind of... It's a bit weird. It's just
that
kind of
was
creepy.
That was when I was like, oh, this is a sharp left turn.
Yeah. The third episode being the love song is just a very blatant attack at sort of fanatic religious groups and also cults.
Yeah, I noticed that actually.
It's just very culty.
It reminded me of like a like that's like the kind of language that you get around that topic in like a Grand Theft Auto game.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing where like, yeah, that's it. It's really
like, are you unhappy with your life?
Yeah,
come join our friends and also worship our king.
It really I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, really strongly, kind of like, yeah, that angle.
Fourth episode, which is the computer song, is very I feel like it deals with kind of addiction and like...
Run me through the fourth one?
So it's the computer one.
Yeah.
So when they're trying to find a, they have like a question, it's like, what's the biggest thing in the world? And they do the joke where they're like, if only we can learn something more, and they all look at the globe. And then they all look, and the globe spins around and it has a face, but then it gets cut off by the computer at the other end of the computer.
That's
He's just
right.
like, I'm a computer! And they do a computer song. And the computer never actually answers the question. He just sucks them all in. And then it's left with the red guy being staring at the computer. It's nighttime.
Yeah, because they go into the computer world.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it cuts in. It's just him at the computer at night.
And then his head explodes at the end, which is kind of a tie to the overarching story.
Right.
Fifth episode is the food one,
Food.
which is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you don't, like... They're like, oh, you want to eat healthy foods. It's like, how do you know what food is healthy? It's like, well... Healthy food is food that is bland, like, and their examples were something stupid like, something that was like oatmeal, white sauce, and aspic. Like, first of all, white sauce on its own is not healthy; it's mostly cream.
That should be
and
dairy
aspic
as
is
fuck.
just salt.
Yep.
And they were like, you know,
Which is also not healthy.
yeah, and they were like, oh, health, like fancy schmancy food, like fruit salad.
Things with color, basically.
Yeah, it just clogs your body up with unnecessary details. Like,
Don't they eat? What? Okay, the heat is on. Is that coming through?
oh, they're fine. We'll just noise cancel that. And
Oh, will we?
yeah, and that episode ends with
Damn it.
the duck, which is the bird.
Probably close the window, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, I'll keep talking.
Yeah.
It ends with the duck being eaten by the yellow guy, which is a great way to end that episode.
Didn't help at all. Now it's just less. Now it's just a little more stuffy in here.
So, in episode 6 is probably the one that has the most connection to sort of the overarching story, because it's a song about dreams. And there's the surface level dreaming, but then there's the idea of, like, it's a song about having dreams and aspirations.
Yep.
And,
We've all been there.
yeah, so and this is sort of where it ties into this idea of a creator. So when it cuts out of the weird world and it goes to the red guy at like an office desk, like waking up, funnily enough, it actually changes aspect ratio for that entire segment, and then switches back when he's in the weird control room. Haven't really figured out what that means. It's kind of just to differentiate the two types of worlds.
Yeah.
So he wakes up and he's like, oh, he's in a world where everyone's really boring. And he's like, wouldn't it be funny if the file came alive? And he's like dancing with the file.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, that sounds really boring.
Yes.
He's like, oh. And then he goes to the pub and everyone's being really boring and saying like dumb, pointless shit.
Yep.
And he's like, this music sucks. I'm going to go up and perform. And he performs the song from the first episode, the creativity song.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He does. Yeah.
And everyone's like, you suck, whatever. And then he's like, he gets really disheartened. But in the corner, he sees, what's his name? Roy.
Yep.
Creepy old man.
Yep.
And then it immediately cuts back to, like, the weird world. Like, the microphone starts talking. The speaker goes like, yeah. And then and he's in this weird world, and he's just, like, looking around, and he finds this the control panel for the current episode, which is playing. The one that is currently tormenting Yellow Guy. And this is kind of where this idea that the red guy represents the creator of pretty much all of the episodes.
Yeah.
Because when he's like just whacking all of the controls, it cycles through most of the teachers, quote unquote teachers, we've seen in the episodes.
Yeah.
Except for the first episode, which is important.
Yep.
And then it runs through some random ones which we've never seen, which includes the file. So the I am a file and you put documents in
me.
The
idea being that he then makes that
piece
of content.
So that sort of shows that like Red Guy is the person who's created all of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the Red Guy sort of represents the creator and Roy is sort of the media company as in general.
Yeah.
And the ending, Red Guy, he goes over to the plug and he's obvious metaphor of turning it off. He pulls out the plug and then it goes straight back to the first episode, except there's a few differences which kind of imply certain things. So the idea behind this theory is that all of the episodes, excluding the first one, all of the episodes from 2 through 6 are like media created. Like they're created by the Red Guy in this sort of alternate world. They were created by him, but because he was sort of under the eye of the media, he had to do them a certain way. Yeah. Which was detrimental to
what he was trying to create.
It's detrimental to the audience, detrimental to just the people.
Corrupted, yeah.
Yeah.
Hence the insane shit that happens.
Yeah, like all of the characters come out worse off than they did like when the episode started.
As do you as a viewer.
Yeah, a little bit. The only difference is that in the first episode, at the end of the episode, after all of the weird shit has happened, the notebook says, let's agree to never be creative again.
Yes.
That is the only teacher that has any sort of, remorse from, what's happened. All of the other teachers just go straight with their idea.
Well, they keep going, yeah.
Yeah, they just keep going, and they only stop when the episode stops, and they never sort of go that was weird, let's not do that again. Only the notebook at the start was just yeah, that was fucked up. Let's not do that again.
Let's never do that again. That was
yeah,
awful.
It's sort of this alternate universe where apparently being creative leads to fucked up things. It's kind of like a weird, opposite of what we expect. But the notebook understanding that, that was fucked up, I'm not going to do that again because that was kind of detrimental to the audience. Both the audience as in the viewer and the audience as in the characters.
Yep.
So the notebook's let's never do that again. So that kind of that first episode is representative of the creators of both Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared and the sort of show inside the show. That's their first show.
Yeah.
Before they sort of got picked up.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the last episode, he sings the creative song and then gets picked up by Roy. And then makes all the other episodes.
So he's already made the first one.
So he's already made the first episode on his own.
Before he goes and sings it at the pub.
It's sort of him singing it at the pub is sort of the metaphor for the first episode happening.
Yeah.
So that's where, he sort of, you could say that he doesn't actually make shows. He's actually a singer and a puppeteer, because that's what he does at the pub.
Yeah.
And the show itself is just sort of an abstraction of what
that,
he does
of that
live.
Performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the really interesting thing when he resets, well, quote unquote resets the show, is that when it goes back to what looks like the first episode, the set has nowhere near as much detail in it. Like it's just sort of an empty room with a table and the calendar, of course, and then the calendar goes to the 20th, which is just obnoxious. And
Yep.
Another funny detail is that all of the characters are the colors of their favorite color in the first episode. So in episode 1, when they're like, go out, collect sticks and arrange them into your favorite color, and it's like blue, red, green's not a creative color.
Yeah. Yep.
In the quote unquote reboot of the first episode, the characters are the colors of their favorite color.
Yep.
And then it opens up with a notebook singing the same song.
Yep.
That has been sung before. It's basically, like, from my sort of perspective and most people's understanding, it's almost a metaphor for, or sort of the idea that it's like, you know, he had this show that was run by the media, but he wasn't happy with it, so he went and did it on his own. He did it indie.
Yep.
Which is why there's less sets, which is why there's, like, you know, the place is really barren, but it also means he had, like, the characters have more creative control. Yeah. And, you know, the characters can be the colors that they actually enjoy rather than being different colors, and they don't get told that green isn't a creative color.
Yeah.
And he goes back to the song that he made because it's his song. It's not...
Yeah, he's going back to the roots.
Yeah, he's going back to the roots. So it's really... So the whole show itself is basically like the creators saying, this is why we didn't take money from people. This is why we went the crowdsourcing route. This is why we stayed indie, because it gave us the creative freedom.
That is interesting.
To do
the things
that they want.
Yeah, that ultimately we set out to do in the first place as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's that is interesting actually. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really subtle things that help sort of cement this. The biggest one is the fact that in all of the credits of the show itself, so once the show plays and the credits roll, it'll say at the end of every single credit, it'll be like, thanks, like with help from all our backers and Roy. In every single one.
Yeah.
Except the first one.
Oh, okay.
So the first one doesn't have and Roy. The first one doesn't even have Roy in it at all.
Yeah.
Not only that, in all of the episodes, there will be some point where Roy the puppet will just be sitting like in the corner or off in the distance, or like there'll be like a single frame of him looking down into the set.
Yeah, it's
sort of this idea that the media
they're sort of always
watching. Like probably the creepiest one that no one notices is in episode 4, the computer one. When Red Guy is sitting in like the dark room staring at the computer, Roy's literally just sitting in the corner of the room, just creepy. Sitting there, just watching.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's fucking horrible.
I mean, the whole thing is scary, but like that's.
But when you notice it, you're like, "Fuck, he's just there. He's not even moving. He's just looking."
Oh God.
There's a lot of ideas behind what the whole idea behind June 19th.
Okay.
So
run me through it.
So in every single episode there is a calendar.
Yeah.
Except for the third episode, which is kind of the reason why this theory exists. And the calendar always says June 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Funnily enough, episode 6 was released June 19th this year.
Yeah.
Which is amusing. Yeah, of course they did.
Of course they did. Of course, that's like Bethesda. They release games on 11/11/11.
Yeah, that's just
Skyrim.
what they do.
Yeah. Or 11/11 rather.
So one of the really interesting things is that the Kickstarter video, it's really weird. It's basically the 3 puppets being kidnapped, and they're saying like, they're being forced to like read out a ransom note essentially, and like, you know, it's the kind of thing where they're saying like, we need money, like give us this much money or else we will be killed off. It's like a joke where it's like, if they don't meet their Kickstarter funding, the characters are going to die, but also they're being kidnapped and being held for ransom.
Yeah.
The Kickstarter video itself, the date, there's a timestamp in the video, and it's the 19th of June. Except it's the 19th of June 55, as in like 1955.
Okay.
So there's this idea that at some point in time, these three characters got kidnapped on the 19th of June 1955.
Yeah.
And then in episode 3, which is when they're out on the picnic, there's no calendar, but the first shot pans across a poster that says, "Have you seen these people? They've been missing since June 19th."
Okay.
So there's this weird sort of backstory theory, which is probably the most like legit theory out of all of them, that they have just been kidnapped and they've been put through hell.
So like Saw or something.
Yeah.
Wow. What
the
fuck?
That one doesn't really go very far beyond just they were kidnapped and they're still missing.
Yeah, that's super weird.
Yeah.
That one, yeah, that's odd. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I just don't, like, that doesn't really seem to tie into the rest of it. But, like,
Yeah.
I mean, overall, it's some crazy fucking shit. Yeah.
It's, I mean, because
I'm
these...
still trying to just, my brain is, like, trying to process. Because it's crazy how complex it is.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the guys who made it, it's led by this guy and this girl. I forget the name, I'm sorry. They're definitely on the ball with sort of
Yeah.
creating this
Very kind of meta.
series. Yeah.
You know, actually, it's the second week in a row we've looked at something that's super meta.
It's just rough.
And next week we're doing BoJack next week, and that's as meta as well.
Yeah.
So this is just gonna be 3 weeks of us like scratching our
Just
heads,
going like,
being
"What?"
like, ugh, the world is too complicated.
Yeah.
I don't like it. No, but this, I mean, if you haven't watched it,
I mean, it's on YouTube and it's free. What
it's
are you
free.
doing?
Yeah, stop watching this. Go,
They're
stop
only
listening to
about
this.
3 minutes each.
But they are. You need to pause in between and just have a thing. You need to like, it was tough. I powered through them, but good God, is it?
I mean, they are entertaining. There are bits which are just legitimately funny.
Yeah, and
they pull off a lot of
There's a lot of esoteric shit that's great.
They pull off a lot of really good I'm trying to think of the word. Just sort of it's not really slapstick humor. It's just sort of
Yeah, I know what
just
you mean.
left wing,
Yeah, really
just
really
out of
sharp
nowhere.
left turn stuff
Yeah.
that is funny. Yeah,
like
there's a lot of that. Yeah.
like in the 3rd episode where the duck is just like, it's like, oh, shouldn't we go save him? He's just like, oh yeah, we should. That's what friends do, right? And then the duck or the bird is just like, it's like, yeah, but I'd really like to finish all this chicken, and just stares at the camera for about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then it just
It's
cuts,
so
and you're
funny.
like, what
You're
the
like,
fuck
whoa.
was that?
Yeah, just straight cannibalism.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, I love it. It's really good. If you haven't watched it, go ahead and do that.
Just, yeah.
But
Don't hug me, I'm scared. Watch them all.
But be warned, it is really
Don't watch it alone in the dark. It
in the
is
dark.
pretty
Yeah.
creepy.
It's really creepy. So yeah, I think that'll do it for this week because I need to stop thinking about this before I go insane.
Yeah.
Where can people find us, Ben?
I don't know.
What are we at? It's patreon.com/DCMworks if you want to help support us.
Twitter, something.
Twitter, whatever. Yeah, that's all that stuff. At DCM_works.
Yeah.
We're on Facebook, I guess. All that stuff. It's all in the show notes. And this podcast is also powered by hover.com. So if you want to grab yourself a sweet domain, you can use our referral link.
Or a hoverboard.
Well,
Yeah?
I don't know that they sell those.
No, okay.
I'll check with them. I'll send them an email, give them a phone call, and I'll.
They have the domain hover.com and they're not
Chilling.
selling
I mean,
hoverboards.
they must, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
so
should set up like a side shop of
They
hoverboards.
should. But so if you want $2 off your hoverboard, you can go to.
Dude, sweet.
Our referral link in the show notes. And yeah, you can grab that. We use them for the site.
We use them for
Just
getting around.
getting around as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hoverboards. They make it so much easier. Like, yeah, I can't recommend them enough. That's gonna do it for this week. So we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
It was probably a song that reminded me of it, or I'd done an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice.
Writing is definitely an isolating thing.
From an outside perspective, that's weird as
It makes
fuck.
us look really mental.
But that is because of what it kind of said about art.
I had fun in bits. There were fun bits.
We went and bought a value pack of straps.
Oh my god, we did. There's a big lesson here to learn about storytelling.